What's up guys, Nathan here, and today I'm going to discuss good win rates for small stakes poker games in particular. This is one of the top questions that I get asked about, what is a good win rate in 10NL cash games and so on. So I'm going to jump into that in this video, but before I get started, I just want to mention that most people do not win at poker in the long term. I've made videos on that in the past. So the best win rate these days, a good poker win rate, is really just anything above zero. That already puts you in, the top 25% or so of all poker players. And keep in mind that I'm talking about over the long run. I'm talking about your win rate over the period of months or years here. I'm not talking about days or weeks. So we don't play for days or weeks in poker. We play for the long term. And lastly, what do I even mean by a win rate? I'm talking about the amount of big blinds that you win per 100 hands. It's typically how we measure it with online poker in particular. And you can just use a program like the Poker Tracker HUD, which I will leave a link to in the description below. That'll give you your poker win rate and everyone else you play against. The final disclaimer here as well is that in this video I'm going to be discussing the very best win rates possible. Okay, so now we're talking about literally the top 1-2% of all players. People always ask me, when they ask me about win rates, they always frame it as what's possible. So these are the elite of the elite good or best poker win rates these days. All right, so let's start with 2NL, otherwise known as the 1 cent, 2 cent cash games, some of the most popular stakes online. I would say that a good win rate, the best win rate in this game these days, is going to be about 15 big blinds per 100. Now, for those of you guys who've been following my blog over the years, you know that I used to beat this game for like 30, 40 big blinds per 100 over enormous samples, but unfortunately that's just not really possible anymore. Players are just better these days. There's a lot more material out there, such as just videos like this on YouTube, for example, to help people just, stop playing so poorly. Let's put it that way. So, win rates across the board, not just 2NL, but win rates at every single level have dropped over the years. So I'll say probably about 15 big blinds per 100 is probably the top win rate you're going to get in 2NL cash games these days. And you're really going to have to table select to achieve that as well. You're going to have to be one of the best players in the game, and you need to table select, meaning that there's always a bad player at your table. And I should mention, I'm assuming that for every single win rate on this list as well. You're not going to achieve these win rates, guys, if you're not interested in table selecting, or you're playing on a site that doesn't allow table selecting. You're not going to hit the win rates on this list because we don't make the money in poker by playing against other good players. We make the money by playing against bad players. All right, so moving on to 5NL cash games, otherwise known as the 2 cent, 5 cent blind games. I'm going to say that the top win rate these days possible is probably about 10 big blinds per 100. This is the second level in online poker, so you don't find as many complete beginners. A lot of the players at this stake have done a little bit of studying. They, perhaps they're watching videos like this. Perhaps they've read some poker books, taken some poker training. They might be using a HUD, like I mentioned before. So your win rate typically drops quite a bit from 2NL to 5NL. I know it's shocking to a lot of people because you're still not playing for any kind of, large amount of money. It's still only a maximum $5 buy-in, but the players at this stake, by and large, are a lot better than the players at 2NL. So your win rate's going to drop a lot. All right, so moving on to 10NL, otherwise known as the 5 cent, 10 cent blind cash games. I'm going to say that the top win rate possible in this game is going to be 8 big blinds per 100. The difference between 5NL and 10NL is not nearly as big as between 2NL and 5NL, and the reason why, once again, is because you don't find complete beginners in this game. Most people, when they're first starting out, perhaps they even played play money before, or they're coming over from live poker, most of the time they're going to start at 2NL. They're not going to start at 5NL or 10NL, so you don't find that massive gap between total recreational players and people who take the game seriously. Once you move up to 10NL, it's not a whole lot different than 5NL, and that's why your win rate's only going to drop to around 8 big blinds per 100 as, again, the top win rate possible. Players are a little bit more difficult to play against than 5NL. You're going to see some more aggressive strategies before the flop specifically, and after the flop as well, but by and large 10NL is still fairly easy to beat online these days with a solid strategy, and once again, good game selection. All right, so moving on to 25NL, otherwise known as the 10 cent, 25 cent blind cash games. Now, there is a fairly significant jump actually from 10NL to 25NL. I'm going to say, the top win rate at 25NL is around 6 big blinds per 100. And like I said, there is a reasonably significant jump in skill level here. Number one, you're playing for 1.5 times the money here. The max buy-in at 10 NL is $10, and the max buy-in at 25 NL is $25. So the 25 NL cash game is kind of the first step where you can make some semi-serious money in this game. The top players at 25 NL can certainly make $500 a month, $1,000 a month, sometimes even a bit more than that. You know, and as I've discussed before on my blog and in some of these videos, is that that's actually a pretty good wage in a lot of countries in this world. So at 25 NL, you're going to start seeing some of the first professionals in these games, and basically just people who take the game seriously. So win rate's probably going to drop quite a bit by this stake. I would say that if you're one of the elite players at 25 NL, table selecting heavily, probably about 6 big blinds per 100 is the most you're going to achieve in this game. All right, so the next one is going to be 50 NL, which is the 25 cent, 50 cent blind cash games. Let's say that the top win rate possible in this game is going to be 5 big blinds per 100. Once you start to get up to some reasonable levels like this, your win rate doesn't drop quite as dramatically, because you're typically just dealing with mostly serious players in your games, with the odd recreational player here and there. And the differences between the regulars at these stakes are more cosmetic and minor than they are, say, between 2NL and 5NL, where you find complete beginners at 2NL and still complete beginners at 5NL, but you know, they're not nearly as new to the game. Basically, you don't see the massive differences in skill level that you do at the lower stakes games, so your win rate doesn't drop quite as much. Now 50 NL, I would say that this is the point in online poker specifically where it starts to get a little bit difficult, definitely, to beat these games. You're playing against quite a few reasonably good opponents at this stake. Some of them are going to be playing professionally, as I just mentioned. You know, with the lower cost of living in many countries in the world, you can actually make a reasonable, quite good income, actually, as one of the biggest winners at 50 NL for many countries in this world. And a lot of the players by 50 NL will be using a HUD, studying advanced poker theory. I've got links to all that stuff in the description below. Basically, they take the game seriously, just like you do, and there's not as much sort of quote-unquote dead money by these stakes. But that doesn't mean that you can't beat these stakes if you take this game very seriously and continue to work on your game. All right, so finally, let's talk about 100 NL, which is going to be the 50 cent, $1 blind cash games online. This is kind of the last stake that I would say for micro stakes or small stakes poker. And I'm going to say that the top win rate in this game these days is probably about 4 big blinds per 100. Again, I'm talking about the best players who are also table selecting. You know, it's going to be difficult to achieve more than that. 4 big blinds per 100 in this game these days. Once again, you're going to find a lot of pretty serious poker players by 100 NL. This is certainly not an easy game to beat. I would not recommend any beginners or people who are coming over from live poker to jump into this game right away. I know it seems like, oh, it's only a $100 buy-in, but actually the games online are typically a lot more advanced in skill level for the same amount of money. Like I said, you know, by 100 NL, there's going to be quite a few players actually playing professionally at this point online. Remember, online you can multi-table as well. So this is a huge, huge factor which allows people to play professionally at lower stakes. So the skill level is going to be higher. 4 big blinds per 100, probably going to be about the top win rate you can achieve. So anyways, guys, I want to remind you once again that most people do not win at poker in the end. It's an unfortunate fact. There's many reasons why. I've made videos on that before. You can go check those out. So the bottom line is you should not look at any of the win rates on this list and judge yourself by them and think that you have to achieve this in order to, you know, be successful in poker. The bottom line is that if your win rate is a positive number, you're already doing far better than most people. You know, winning is winning in poker. It doesn't matter how you get there. You know, you obviously want to be more efficient. You want to have a higher win rate. But if you're already showing a long-term positive win rate in this game, congratulations, you're already way ahead of the field. You know, the numbers that I mentioned on this list, once again, are for the elite, best poker players out there who are game selecting heavily and probably not multi-tabling too much either. So anyways, let me know your thoughts on these win rates in the comments below. Do you think that these poker win rates are achievable in today's games, or do you think that they're too high, too low? Have you already achieved these win rates yourself? If so, brag about it in the comments below. let me know your thoughts. If you guys want to see more poker videos like this, also make sure you're subscribed to the channel here and also shove all in on that like button below if you found this video helpful in any way. Lastly, I will leave a copy of my free poker cheat sheet. That'll be the top link in the description below, and that'll give you my complete strategy to start getting on your way to achieving some of the win rates on this list. And finally, I will leave a video right here that I made recently that I think will help you guys out some more. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. It's been Nathan Williams with blackcoin79.com.